Well, for you guys, they don't need it on the tape, I think. Are we like on the air again? Hi. Welcome to Cultural Psychology. We're ready for you every time this thing comes on. You know, what we've been doing the last 2 class periods is we've been watching the movie Joy Luck Club. And, you know, it's a great extra credit for you to watch it. The students that I teach on campus with this course, we always watch we always watch Joy Luck Club. Because we are starting to look at East Asian, Japanese, Chinese cultures, Vietnamese cultures. And today's presentations, I hope, who's on the presentation today? Hi, I thank you back there. Will be on Asian American issues, and so what I do is we stop and look at Joy Luck Club, but you haven't done that, and we're not going to show it on this class, but you can go rent it and look at it, and it's great extra credit. Part of me wants to give you 2 extra credit points if you go rent the movie. I think I'll do that. It'll be like the Holocaust thing. If you go rent the movie and write a page and a half about the movie and how some of the themes are related to some of the things we're talking about in class, I'll give you extra credit for that. 2 points for the Joy Luck Club. And one of the reasons is, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, you see the same sort of fascist, negative, patriarch, domineering that you see in the Holocaust experience toward women in this movie, where the Nazi regime was doing it toward Jews and gypsies and mentally ill people, gay and lesbians and stuff. We're projecting the negative side. You see that in Joy Luck Club. It's a very, very powerful movie of seeing sort of the old traditions, how it was father might, father right. Did y'all get that? And I wasn't aware. Does that still go on in some of the Asian cultures, that the father holds that place of authority? I'm asking you in class, somebody to nod, no, yes. Does it still go on in Southern Asian, Pakistan, Indian cultures, that the father has a lot of power and authority? You're looking at me like you're on drugs. Well, yes or no, it doesn't? So that movie apparently, yes ma'am.
Mine does.
Your family does? Yeah. Your father has that kind of authority. Yeah, and I'm not saying it's just interesting because it sort of evolves. And I know being in this culture, things change. But so I'll give you 2 extra credit points if you go see Joy Luck Club. And the reason I am is because I think the experience of the movie is so horrific in some of the tactics that people do to deal with authority figures and gain acceptance into the group or to express their rage and anger. It's so powerful how they project. And you remember the scene where the woman drowns the baby? Well, what is all of that about? She's taking, because she knows her husband, who's fooling around on her, he loves this child because it's the next lineage. And he says, the way I can get to him is to kill the baby. Now that's clearly projecting her own issues onto the child. The child's a victim of her own unconsciousness. That's a very potent, powerful, stark example of how we use and abuse others to deal with the issues we can't handle. She couldn't handle being dissed or whatever by her husband and shamed by him, and so she had to kill this child. And extreme examples, but those extreme examples are very telling because many of us use and abuse people in races all the time in order to put somebody down to lift ourselves up. That's a terrible symbolism, isn't it, as she drowns the child. And then, of course, the woman has to come to terms with that later in her life. Great, great movie. Every time I watch it, I learn some more things about it. Okay, a couple of things we're going to look at today, not the least of which is review a bit for the exam. We did some on the last tape, but we're going to review it again this time, some more. And then I have another handout, and then we have our presentation on the Asian ethnic identity of Asians in the United States and Asian Americans. And this will be a very stimulating presentation, right? Do you have like charts and puppets and things? Oh, well, I was sure we were going to have some good entertainment here. Let me just hand this out, and this will Andy. God, Can you believe that? 57 years old. What a memory I come up with. My mind. It just outdoes me. Just hand those out. And I want to share this first part first, and then as a way of sort of summarizing. I believe that exams are a way that I can teach. What I try to do is give you a book to read generically and articles about what we're talking about. I try to give lectures and stories that amplify that. Many of you are writing articles that amplify this. And then when we come take a test, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm trying to go over the information again to sort of like implant it in your brain somehow, some way, by going over this again and again. So I use the test as really kind of a teaching tool. I don't ask you things to trick you. I ask you things that I think are interesting and important and may make a difference someday. Do what?
In that sense, you should make it open notes.
Yeah, it should be open notes. Yeah, well, my exams are closed note, open mind. That's sort of my theory. But again, the test is not hard. It's meant to be informative and educational. I could make it really hard, but then you wouldn't get anything out of it. Okay, has everybody got a handout? And I'll give this to y'all later. And let me just read this, because I think I actually printed it. See, that's pretty good. You can almost read that there. Hold on. And again, those on watching this on the tapes, you can get this on the website. Then you look in your syllabus for the website number to get all the handouts. Will be there. Okay, let me just read this. I found this. I think I might have read this the first class, but I typed it up this weekend and wanted to maybe share it with you all in a way, because I think it sort of sums how we can not only look at culture sociologically or historically, but look at them psychologically. And Sam Keen is a favorite teacher of mine. And this is a piece from this book called Your Mythic Journey. Here's what he says: psychology ought to be more concerned with boredom and excitement and less concerned with mental illness and lost and found identity. The disease of the modern psyche is more of a vacuum than a thorn in the flesh. If we are alienated and disgraced, frustrated and bored, it's because of what hasn't happened, because of potentialities we have not explored. Few of us know the fantastic characters, emotions, perceptions, and demons that inhabit the theaters of our minds. We are encouraged to tell a single story, a true story, construct a consistent character, fix an identity. We are thus defined more by neglected possibilities than realize one. We rehearse and repeat monotonous monologues. A monotonous monologue while heroes and villains, saints and madmen, aesthetics and libertines wait in the wings for a chance to seize center stage and run wild. That statement is about creativity. Not just fitting in the box, but living a full life, see. In this sense, identity is a repetition compulsion, a conspiracy to put a consistent face before the world, to cover up the glorious inconsistency of emotions and desires. The character we develop domesticates the world and leaves no wilderness to play in. There are many territories of imagination and strange regions of emotions that we may not encounter without throwing our sanity into question. And I think this is a very pregnant sentence. Until we cross some borders. And see, the metaphor, the simile, the analogy, is crossing borders into other cultures, into other races, into other sexualities, into other experiences of life, into other ways of thinking. Until we cross some borders, we are likely to remain rational, banal, boring, and bored. A major concern of any therapeutic psychology should be to help an individual lose identity. An individual's becomes strongest, most vivid, and most open when he discovers the contradictions in his psyche. Each of us harbors the entire range of human possibilities. At the heart of the uniqueness of the individual lies the universal. Every individual's deepest ecstasy and fears are as old as mankind and as common as dirt. And if you'll pardon the masculine language, not let that stumble you up. But that just gives me goosebumps whenever I read that. Is that there's so much roaming in the unconscious of all of us. And one of the reasons we come to university and study is we want to broaden that world. We want to encounter other people, other experiences, that we might become enlarged personalities. Sadly, most by the time they're 30, 40, 50 years old, much of what I'm reading sounds like ideal gibberish. Because the ego, in its effort to find personal peace, security, comfort at all costs, misses stimulation, growth, questioning, doubt, uncertainty, fear of life that really broadens who you are. And my theme in cultural psychology is that the richness of the world lies around us and everybody else's life and culture, and that there's a little bit of me and you and you and you, and that I can learn more about myself by learning about you. And rather than run from what I don't know, but to walk toward what I don't know, it increases my life. And then I don't know, did I share this already? I don't think I did. Owning your own stuff. Did I share this? I don't think I did in this class. No. Okay, good. It's on the back side of this, and let me just read it because and this is some of the reasons I spent so much of this first half of this class looking at the development of the individual. Because as we own our own stuff, as we become aware of our own issues, we're less likely to perpetrate our issues on other people. And just to read down through this, it says, with the rise of continuous consciousness and not before, psychological relationship becomes possible. In other words, you can't really relate to anybody if you don't know who you are. You can't really know another person and identify with them, be it in a love relationship, parents, family, children, other races. You can't really understand other people's issues until you know something of your own. The second one is we carry within all the wonders we seek without. For Africa and all her prodigies lie within the human soul. That's one of my favorite verses. Thomas Browne was a 17th century English writer. But that within our own issue, all the things outside we're attracted to tell us about what's going on inside. And then this interesting list here is as when we develop ourselves sufficiently through the magnum opus, and what's magnum is the great, and what's opus? What's an opus? Your symphonies play an opus. It's a work. It means a work. Did you ever see Mr. Holland's opus? See, opus means work. It's a Latin word for work. But Mr. Holland's Opus is a great movie, by the way, right? So the great work of life is known as individuation, to become an authentic person. And then listen to this. He says, we develop, number one, when we do this work over time, I'm talking next 20 or 30 or 40 years, while everybody's out trying to make a living and raise family and fit into the collective and be cool and neat and suave with all of what's hip and right, which is fine. But in the midst of that, your life is evolving and emerging. When that happens, we do not feed off other people. Somebody said you're either dealing with your own stuff or you're a vampire. You have to either be working on your own stuff or you're sucking off somebody else for it. See? Secondly, if we do this work, we become less dependent, asking less of others and more of ourselves. Thirdly, is we let others off the hook for not delivering what they could never deliver. That happens about 10 years into a marriage relationship, maybe 20. Well, I'm marrying you because you're going to give me all these things that I don't have to work on within, all the fears I don't want to face, all the struggles of life I want to deny, and this relationship is going to keep me from facing that. And your job is to make sure I get these things in life. I mean, we all do this subtle contract with other people. We also do it in our spirituality. We make this contract with God, and somehow life doesn't deliver what we think for, we let other people off the hook. Fourth thing is here is we let others assume responsibility for their own journey. See? Ultimately, I'm responsible to you, but I'm not responsible for you. Yes, I'm responsible to. I've surrendered my life to help people, but and to care for people. But watch this: not to take care of people. I'll take care of my infant children and people that are infirmed or sick or elderly. Of course, I'll take care of them. But I won't care for people who can care for themselves, take care of themselves. I'll care for people, but not take care of them. Do you hear the little switch in that? To be responsible to and not responsible for. Like you're not responsible for your parents' happiness. You're not responsible for the unrealized dreams of your mother and father. You're not responsible to do in your life what they never did. You can respond to the things they're encouraging you to do, but you don't live out their life. They have to come to terms with that themselves. Number 5 is, and let me say this again, we can't help it. Our gender, our race, our ethnicity, our culture, these are things that just happen. There's no sense in being mad about it, but finding some way to find the good in it and work through issues. Yes, sir?
In a relationship, I guess, for people who are married or people who've been in a long relationship, would you say that you're responsible for your partner's happiness?
Not really. I can be responsible to my partner, but I'm ultimately not responsible because our happiness has to come inside. If the gig is I'm supposed to behave, do, act, and chameleonize, I made it up, my life in order to make you happy, then you're dependent on me to be happy, and that's called pathological codependency. That's set up for something. If you take responsibility for your own happiness, if I'm doing something that's not making you happy, please tell me, and I'll try to adjust it. If I can't or won't, then we have a real problem. But I'm not in a relationship the sole goal to make you happy. The goal, I want to become fulfilled. I want you to be fulfilled. And I want you to have your journey. I want to have mine. And I want to share and support you in all that I can. But ultimately, don't you think it's kind of it's a lot to ask to take responsibility to make that other person happy? That's why half the marriages fail, usually. It's the illusion that this relationship, I won't have to face these problems because of the other person. But that's a good question. Number 5 is, if I do this work, I can provide my own uniqueness to enrich relationships. Best thing you can do for the people you love and the people you hate is become yourself. And become your gifted, talented, creative self. My gosh, you bless the whole world. Best thing I can do for my children is to continue to love their dad, enhance their dad's growth, have enough challenges and play and joy in life that I'm a growing person. I hope 10 years from now, I won't be the same person I am now. I hope I'll be more me. See, I know the person I was 10, 15, 20 years ago, that person's gone. I mean, he's still in there, but there's more parts of me that are expressed now than there used to be. And of course it's coming. Remember, our word up here is work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get up and go hear a lecture on racism. It's a lot of work to go take a course on love and communication. Sign up for a course that you don't even get credit for. It's a lot of work to invest the time and money to grow and mature and discover. See? And it's work, but the payoff is huge because you have a more conscious, alive life. Number 6 is to keep others from, if I do this work, I keep others from inappropriately feeding off of us, forcing others to deal with our own stuff. Wow. We'll look more at that in the next test stuff. And then 7, as I honor the work of God within ourselves and others in the context of the larger mystery. There's something going on here bigger than all of us, and I honor that in myself and in you. And then the last one is, therefore we can love and relate to others without controlling and using people. And that's that's really what life's all about. How do we love and relate and not use and abuse? And then this last little quote I have by Carl Jung says, where love reigns, there is no will to power. Where the will to power is paramount, love is lacking. One is but the shadow of the other. I'm either going to love you and support you and help you, or I'm going to use you and abuse you. You can't do both. I mean, at the same time. And that's kind of interesting. So that's kind of my theme for the class is to see it in this context, and that's why I wanted to sort of read all of that. A couple of things here. I guess let me. Did we talked about positive projection on blacks, didn't we? What we like about the black community. I just want to throw this in because we're going to be moving right along pretty quickly as we come back after the test. But I want to throw a couple things in. What is it you like about white people? And if you're Caucasian or Northern European, you can't talk. I'm going to just put white. What is it? Positive projection. We're going to look at this in the next deal. What do you like about white people? Nothing. Nothing.
They make good professors.
Yeah, good professors, good. You just got your A for the class, right? What do you about the white community? Positively, yeah. Okay.
They seem to be more together, like in a business.
Yeah, there's great business sense. And see, the reason I'm doing this is that there's a lot you can learn from, and see, we're generalizing and stereotyping. But you say, well, if the white man, whatever that means, is good with business, I want to learn from that person, not be angry about it, that I wasn't born white. But I'm going to say, well, how can I learn and develop? What else do white people do that you're positive? Yeah.
I think they help each other out more. Like if somebody gets a job,
push the button down. Yeah.
Like they help each other out more. Like one person gets a job, they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna help this guy get on with me or whatever, and they
look out for their own.
Yeah, they look out for their own.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's positive, but yeah, I'll put that down for own. Sort of like the Aggies are always hiring Aggies to work with them. Okay, what else? A couple of things. Yeah.
I think they're very family oriented. They're like together. They're always like they do things as a family more. I don't know, maybe.
See, I don't think that's true. But that's it. But you perceive that. You see that. Like you watch too many
That's what I've
commercials with
seen.
white people in the commercials. All these, they're trying to sell you the product. But what do you think? I'm gonna question that one. What other things you like? Somebody had their hand up. Yes, ma'am.
I like that they're concerned. Like when people have problems, they want to help you with whatever you're...
Yeah, they seem to be they seem to be very helpful and caring. Yeah, in terms of money and support and helping other people. And again, these are broad, general things. How about at least in this culture's, the white culture's ability to put a society together? The Constitution, the American dream, whatever all that is. And I know there's huge holes in all this. Well, nobody said yes to that, so I won't put that. What else? A couple more things. Yeah.
Like if you, I don't know, for me personally, for a few of my friends growing up, we had a lot of like if you have a white friend, like a guy friend mainly guy friends, it's almost like they're always there for you, man. Like if you're in trouble or you need anything, like in the black neighborhood, if you have a white friend, that's somebody you can really trust.
So when they're friends, they're good friends for minorities.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and we'll look at some of why that is for minorities when they are a good friend. That's good. What else? Any other ones? A couple things. See, I think there's probably a lot more, and the reason I'm sharing this is not the negative projection, but what's the positive projection? Now, we also didn't do Hispanics, did we? We hadn't done Hispanics. And what positive? We looked at that, but I wanted to do that too. So if we look at the Hispanic culture. What is it you like about the Hispanic culture? The women? What, the food? There is a lot of wonderful food. And of course, we could say that about various white cultures, all cultures. But what else? The Hispanic culture. Hardworking? Yeah. And see, that's not to say blacks and whites and Asians aren't hardworking, but we kind of see that when you look at Hispanic. Of course, a lot of these people that immigrate over here, they say they're lazy. How can they be lazy when they work so hard? Have all these jobs. Yeah, sure.
They're really family oriented.
Yeah, see, I think they're more family oriented than the white culture. Don't you? Do y'all kind of? We saw that in that film. They're family oriented. What else? Anything else? Hispanic, Chicano, Mexican, Mexican American. Yeah, there's a religious. There's Pablo over there telling us.
Actually, that's Pablo.
Where? That's Pablo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It was. Didn't he say religious, or did you say it? Oh, okay. Sorry.
But I actually thought about something for white people.
Yeah, what's that?
I guess they have like good values, seem to value education. Their kids usually go to college and
Value education. That's good. That's really good. Because many of the schools and universities, and a lot of money is put in education. That's good. See, and so in that sense, we can learn from that and say, well, I want to steal that and put it in my life. See, rather than Charity. Okay.
But the guys, I think the ones that I know at least are real, like, I guess is the right word, chivalry, like they're real.
Hispanic or white?
Hispanic.
Oh, Hispanic.
Yeah, like they're very.
Chivalrous.
That's it.
Chivalrous.
I think that's because.
Is that right? That's not right.
Isn't the word chivalry?
Yeah. CHIL.
Yeah, I-L.
B. I'm sorry. I missed that. Chivalrous. Yeah, that's good. That's interesting. And maybe some of that's that macho stuff, but there's a way Hispanic men often treat women with the dignity or something. And that's not to say other cultures don't. Anything else on the Hispanics or white people? And since we're at it today too, how about Asians? Asians, and let's think primarily East Asian, but it may be let's think East Asian people. Smart.
Family oriented.
A lot of family oriented. Family. What's that?
Hardworking, probably.
Industrious, yeah. Yeah, you could say a lot of this country came from industrious Northern European, immigrants coming over early in the United States. I mean, these were early white immigrants coming after it, and as we see these other immigrants coming in, we see these same industrial qualities. What else about Asian?
Good credit.
Say it again.
Good credit.
Good credit? They're not in debt? Is that a generalization? I need to learn about that. Yes.
I think as opposed to like white people.
Yeah, somebody push a button near Charity back there. You've got one. Right there, up here. See, push your little deal. Speak, Charity, speak.
Okay, I think like as opposed to white people, how they were talking about white people climb up the ladder in business, I think that Asians are willing to start at the bottom. They're entrepreneurs. They do like their own business, and they build on that.
Yeah, that's that hardworking. Yeah, the article talked about that too. And what else? Somebody had something? There seemed to be, yeah.
In most cases, like if a minority come from another country, like to the States, and there's an Asian family, they kind of show the ropes and help you, start your own business, or whatever.
Yeah, they're
whatever the case may
supportive
be.
of others.
Very supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, and let me say this too. I find the women have a grace about them that's really wonderful. And there's sort of and I know y'all. There's sort of I was going to put a silent dignity that's often different from other women necessarily. And I know these are huge stereotypes, but I'm just trying to say, what can I learn? Not only from individuals we can learn, but from other races in general. Anything else? Just Asians? There's a humility? Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's part of it too. Well, anyway, so you get the idea. We're going to keep doing this as we go through the rest of the class on our projections on other people. And obviously we have a lot of negative ones, but negative projections, remember, it's our stuff. Just like this is our gold. You don't see your own gold. You see it in them first, another person first. Okay, you want to review? You want to review for the test, or do you want to have y'all's Let's do your little presentation since we just talked about Asian, and then we'll come back and review for the test. And we have today Annie, Stephanie, and Caroline. Big hand for them today. Thank you, thank you. Hi.
Hi, I'm going to start with the article Ethnic Identity of Asians in the U.S. and basically it's about how Asians define themselves. And it talks about first-generation immigrating Asians are not identical to the people they left back home even though they are defined as traditional. When people from one ethnicity begin to come together to form a cultural group, it runs parallel to the white dominant culture. When Asians face conflict with the U.S. society, they begin to Americanize their ways. For example, although Sunday has no significance for Hindus, it is now the busiest day of worship in U.S. Hindu temples. This demonstrates that even traditional first-generation Hindus are not adhering to special religious days and times from back home. Second-generation Asians tend to create their own self-definition. They consider themselves 100% Asian and 100% American. When first-generation parents talk about U.S. whites, they tend to use the term Americans, implying that they are foreigners and always will be. Many second-generation Asians do not know the Asian meanings of shame, guilt, sacrifice for the family, and bringing honor and praise to the family. First-generation parents have very strong feelings towards these issues. Does anyone have this communication barrier with their parents, like how the parents are always like, you have to bring honor to your family and everything?
Does anybody come from a family like that, where it's important to bring honor to the family? Nobody's raising their hand. Is that common? I mean, really raise your hand if that's still an important theme in your family. It's not really as it used to be, I'll be darned. My dad said, if you get drunk, remember whose name you carry. That's when I was in high school.
Okay. Interethnic marriage is a big issue for Asians. Interracial marriage is a whole different story. Interethnic marriage may result in rejection from their parents or opposed by other ethnic members who have definite preference for marriage within their ethnicity. The authors of this article say that diversity breeds diversity. An interracial family as a whole may adopt a different set of ethnic identities from the public and at home. Publicly, a family may exercise their daily Americanized activities through work or shopping. At home, a family may practice their native language or watch movies, read magazines, newspapers, listen to music, or eat food that all have Asian features. Some biracial Asian children may find that people feel comfortable making insensitive comments about Asians in front of them because they are considered safe. Although these biracial Asians could pass for white, they may not be interested in doing so or even interested in having a white identity at all. Biracial Asians that form from two minority groups such as African American and Asian American raise even more complex ethnic identity issues within themselves. If they wanted to identify themselves more towards the African American group, they may experience the pressure from African Americans to prove their blackness. And for Asian groups, they may experience racism. A biracial and bi-religious child would probably have the most difficult time finding his or her ethnic identity. In a current journal, Cook and Helms argues that one cannot classify people in the U.S. according to genetic origins. She mentions that racial characteristics are chosen by the U.S. white dominant group that holds the political power. Do you agree that the stereotype of minorities originate from the dominant racial group? Like, do you agree that the stereotype of minorities originate from the dominant racial group?
Rather than a yes or no answer, like we could say yes or no, frame that question in a discussion form, like,
do you agree that? I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, where do you think racial stereotypes came from? That's good.
Very good. Oh, where do you guys think the racial stereotypes for minority groups came from? Yes.
Well, it seems like if one group does a particular activity a lot, then people start to notice it, and they generalize whatever, or they make generalizations about everybody based on the whatever has stood out in their mind. So it seems like racial stereotypes come from a few people in the group behaving a certain way, and then because it's not just like the group that's in power that stereotypes, everybody stereotypes. So I don't know, it just seems like people's behavior, or some people's behavior, gives rise to certain stereotypes.
Okay. And Stephanie will be finishing this article.
Good job.
And for
Okay, the article continues to talk about some variables that are used to assess ethnic identity. These include ethnic identification, a sense of belonging, positive and negative attitudes towards one's own ethnic group, and participation in ethnic activities and cultural practices. So basically, ethnic identity can be divided into two categories, external and internal. External ethnic identity refers to observable social and cultural behaviors that arise in the areas of ethnic language, group friendship, participation in group functions, media, and traditions. Internal ethnic identity has three dimensions: cognitive, moral, and affective. The cognitive dimension refers to the ethnic person's self-images and images of his or her ethnic group, knowledge of their heritage, and knowledge of their group's values. The moral dimension refers to a person's feelings of group obligations, and the affective dimension refers to an ethnic person's feelings of attachment to his or her own ethnic group. Core values that are important to many U.S. Asian groups include personality, human development, behaviors, and motivations. Many Asian religions emphasize such personality traits as silence, self-control, patience, humility, modesty, and simplicity. It also appears that many U.S. Asian sense of self is strongly tied to the family. The Asian family system is, however, vulnerable to emotional difficulty. It seems that parents are afraid that their children will lose a strong sense of ethnic identity, and that although the children want to identify with their culture, they may not be quite as invested as their parents. So, question. How significant is the role of family in your development of ethnic identity in your culture? Anyone? Want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay. How significant is the role of family in your development of ethnic identity in your culture? Yeah.
I would say it just plays the biggest part is because your family is what they teach you.
Your family teaches you pretty much where you come from, and you learn everything from them as you grow up. So pretty much whatever they teach you is what you're going to believe and project in your life.
Good point. Anyone else? Yeah.
I think especially in Asian cultures, the religion is very closely tied to the culture, and so in religions, most of the Eastern religions, I know that they emphasize family a lot, and so I think that plays a really big role as far as the cultural development is like side by side with the religious development, and thus the family plays an extremely important role.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay. According to the 2000 census, Asian Americans make up about 4.3% of the United States population, and they're considered to be the fastest growing minority group in comparison to all other ethnic groups. Today, Asian Americans are also seen as America's model minority, but at the same time, this stereotype provides a disadvantage to some Asian Americans. My article called Asian American addresses 5 issues concerning Asian Americans. The first issue is, where are Asian immigrants coming from and where are they settling? Well, basically they come all over Asia. The Asian American community itself in the U.S. includes Chinese, Filipinos, Japanese, Asian Indians, Koreans, The Hmong tribes people, Cambodian, Vietnamese. And a majority of them reside in either California, New York, and Hawaii. The second issue is how extensive is anti-Asian discrimination in education. Statistics have shown that Asian Americans score higher than any other ethnic group on mathematics tests and that they have the nation's highest high school graduation rates. However, despite their academic accomplishments, Asian Americans still face discriminations. Like Harvard University and UCLA were accused of discrimination. Like the committee that looks at the applicants, they think like, oh, okay, we have enough Asians, so we're not gonna admit anymore. So UCLA was found guilty of it, but Harvard wasn't. The third issue is how extensive is anti-Asian discrimination in employment. And basically, Asian Americans have been discriminated since the 19th centuries when the Chinese came over and they worked on the railroads. And today, Asian Americans feel that they have this glass ceiling above their head, so they feel that they can't advance in their jobs. Some discrimination that occurs in the workplace is accent discrimination and the English-only rules. The fourth issue is why do so many Asian Americans establish small business? Because of all the discrimination in the workplace, Asian Americans basically have no choice but to start their own business. Approximately 6% of Asian Americans own their own businesses. And another reason why they think that Asian Americans are successful in their business because they have close ties with their community. Basically, their community supports them. Like, one community-based networking is called the Asian American Manufacturers Association, and they support, like, they lend out money, and then you just like pay back as soon as you start up your business. And then the final issue is, are Asian Americans truly a model minority? Yes, it seems like most of them are successful, but most Asians resent being called a model minority because they think just because, okay, yeah, most of them are Asian, so every single Asian person is going to be successful. So, like when the more recent Asian immigrants, when they come over, they have difficulty like in schools and in learning a new language. But as they're stereotyped as being successful, they don't offer help as other ethnic groups. And I have a question. In your opinion, do you think Asian Americans or like any other ethnic groups is America's model minority? Like, okay, well, do you think Asian Americans or any other ethnic groups, do you think there's a model minority, America's?
What's a model? I mean, what's the...
Like, they think because they're the minority, they're immigrants, they come over, they seem so successful in the U.S.,
The model is if you're successful financially, you're...
Financially successful, like every...
That's the ideal?
Well, I mean, no, because, I mean, there are lots of different kinds of minorities that are successful, and especially where I grew up in Houston, a certain section, there are so many different cultures and types of race there, and they're all successful, so I don't think you can just put that on one particular race.
Yeah.
It's always that strange moment when we're pausing going, y'all did a great job, thank you. Yeah, I was watching, I was recovering from a bike ride Sunday afternoon, long bike ride. And on Book Notes, is it Book Notes, C-SPAN something? Has anybody ever seen that? Has anybody ever seen it? They had I'll sit down here, Stacy. But they had a historian from Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton or something, named Hansen. His name's Alan David Hansen. He's written 17 books on history and militarism and all this stuff. But it seemed pretty interesting. Some of the things were very interesting. But he said one of the things that happens, he said, when a minority or an immigrant comes to this culture, once they get in and start succeeding financially with the laissez-faire capitalistic system we have, suddenly they get the respect of all of the majority. The one thing they found that causes inclusion is building a successful business, coming up with a creative idea. You know what I'm talking about? And his theory or his research or whatever, it really doesn't make any difference who you are or where you are. Once you come in and you make a lot of money, then you get more accepted into the culture. Have you found that kind of as a true? Not necessarily. I mean, but you know, I guess people respect financial wealth as a sign of success. I know there's still plenty of you know, prejudices other than that. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting comment. And yes, I laid there and watched it for 2.5 hours. I was so tired I couldn't go to sleep, so I just watched it. Okay, well let's go over the exam a little bit. We went over it on the last tape, and I won't bore you with it totally. Let me do this here just to show you what the exam looks like. And yeah, right. Okay. And this is, I'm going to draw this on here so you'll figure out how to do it. But what we want on here, the first one is, what are 3 common ego stances or approaches? And what I want on the exam is to use bullets. I mean, you don't have to use bullets literally. But the first one was what? Inflation, yeah. I'm going to write what I feel like I'm in kindergarten here. So inflation, and the other one is reductionism, which is another word for deflation. Reductionism. And then the third one was willingness to grow. Yeah, willingness. Yeah, to grow. To become yourself. See, any way you say that's fine. Is become yourself, your true self, through awareness, understanding, and something. Now, I'm using this black marker, which takes up a lot of room, but I'm showing you that you have the space to write the answer to the questions in here. And, and so just get to the point. And like on inflation, you'd put some stuff like what? Pride, egocentric, puffed up, what?
Self-centered.
Yeah, self-centered.
Nurture yourself through materialism.
Yeah, and also under that, there's too much. I mean, I could ask another question of this, which we might do in a second. So you give the answer and then put some adjectives to describe it or other nouns. See, that's all I'm wanting on it. And I'm not going to go through all of this. But there's enough room to put all those things in there. And the second question is really, is the answer to the third common ego stance is, what are 5 ways that we move toward becoming our true self? And you can list and describe these in this space. Are you with me? Okay. And again, if you're going to get 5 points. If you obviously look like you know the information, you have several adjectives there, you'll get 5 points. But if you just put a couple, you'll probably get 4, where you just went from 100 to 80. If you answer half of the thing, you'll probably get 3, so you just went to 60 on the. You see, so there's not a lot of point spread as it was. So you'll get it. You know how to do it. So another question is 5 ways or challenges for becoming one's true self, and we looked at that before. And remember that first way, as strangely enough, was the it's really Hillman's theory of the call. That's a good. What is the call? This is the last one. The willingness to become yourself through awareness, growth, and understanding. I don't know what I put. It doesn't make a difference. Anything close like that will mean you got it. What is the call? Recognize the call. What is the call? The concept of the call. What? Yeah, it's like your destiny. We might say Roger Clemens was called to be a baseball pitcher. Well, we may find that he wasn't called to do that one day, but your calling is sort of what fits. Aristotle said, when your gifts and talents meet the needs of the world, there you find your calling, your purpose, your life destiny. And we don't want to put closure on that, because your call is to live fully and enjoy life and find your bliss and desire and all that. But it's a sense of being who you really are, not who your mother or father or culture demands, but And it's interesting, many of the great people have felt this compulsion to do something, that this is who they are. And it's a search for our whole life, but the call is our unique destiny, and it's a prime factor of human existence. And that's what the acorn theory is, that we come into this world as a seed. You plant a pine cone, you're going to get a pine tree because that's what's in the seed. You plant an acorn from a live oak, you're going to get a live oak. You plant an acorn from a post oak, you'll get a post oak. Acorn from a water oak, you'll get a water oak. An acorn from a red oak, you'll get a red oak. An acorn from a pin oak, you'll get a pin oak.
So you come into this world as a seed and you have a purpose to be lived?
Kind of. It's kind of living toward that perhaps this search is not just about satiating my needs and desires, but perhaps there's something within me that's meant to be expressed. There's something I'm meant to do. There's some reason I'm meant to be here on the planet. I know at a minimum I'm meant to be on the planet to be the father of Steve and Lori, our two children. I know that when I had kids that, well, part of my destiny is to be their father and to be the best father I can to be for them, because that's what life's presented me, and to be the spouse or whatever it is. But it's even more than that. It's what is it beats deep within your heart that in your memory or something you struggle with that you have to pursue. But that's the sense of call. So the ways we become our true self is we recognize that it's a call is a primary fact of human existence. And one of the reasons I'm saying that is I think it's just an incredible way to live, to think that you got a call and you got a call and you got a call. Regardless of your ethnicity, race, gender, sexual preference, I have to honor that you're here for a purpose too, just like I am. And when you live your purpose, it makes my life rich and better. If you don't live out who you're supposed to be, then it robs me. Best thing I can do for you is to find my call and destiny, and then I give so much more to the world. A second one was to align your life to the call, to the mystery, to that destiny as we discover it, by asking tough questions about what's the meaning of my life. Not just how can I get tickets to the ball game, although I think that is part of my destiny, is to go to as many ball games as possible. You can bribe me with tickets to games. And then a third one under that second question is to seek to become a person of value and not just a successful person, by accepting your givens as belonging to your destiny. And we looked a lot at that. That you're not a problem to be solved, you're a mystery to unfold. That your race, your ethnicity, the color of your skin, the age, the time in history you're born, that all of this is part of the value of who you are as a person. And this is a milestone to get to that. And to say, this is the givens. These are the cards I've been dealt. Now how do I play them most creatively? And that's to be a valuable person. And then a fourth one with that was to dare to be masked and unreal and authentic before the world. To be a genuine person. They're so rare to find authentic people. Most people live behind masks all the time, and masks are important. It's important to wear your mask. You don't reveal who you are to everybody, but to be more authentic and teachable, open, humble, joyful, and there may be some other adjectives. This is all part of that second question. Since I had this down, I'm showing you. And the next one is to risk being a co-creator for the healing of the world. Not to be so self-absorbed in my own issues that I don't realize that. See, I discovered this as a parent, that every child that my kid brought over to the house, I needed to love and acknowledge and listen to and see as important, because I was an authority figure in their life, and I was part of their life. But to see that my life is not just about me, but it's about other people. You could be in a corporate world high up the executive chain, and you have respect for the people who work with you and for you. The biggest complaint I've heard over the years from major law firm secretaries, I used to speak to a lot of these groups, is the fact that they feel like they're an it. As Karl Marx said, they feel alienated, like they're a piece of machinery in the system, and don't feel like that they're cared for their feelings and their personhood. And for many people in corporate world, their family is their work people. They spend more time with those people than anybody else. But to see myself that I can enrich others or curse them by how I treat them, and that we need to belong, that we need you to become your true self. And we all need to do that. And that's all a little hyperbolic, but nevertheless, it kind of moves us toward a way of making it the world, not being too inflated or too reductive. And let me say this too, just because I'm like teaching it, is you're not, if you don't have a little inflation, you're not going to get off the ground. I mean, there's no way I could stand here and be a professor and teach and do all this stuff if I didn't have a little confidence in myself. I mean, I don't think I'm the best teacher there ever was, but I also don't think I'm the worst. You have to have a little inflation. You have to have a little pride, a little healthy sense of, assertion in life. And the other thing is, to be reduced or deflated, you have to have a little humility in life, right? If you think you're the cat's meow, then nobody can relate to you. You have to be humble. You have to work within your limits. It's not a crime to be a mortal. It's not a crime to be insecure. It's not a crime to be someone who's still learning and growing. And that's what reductionism does for us. We're all, dirt and ashes. We're just mortal people doing the best we can. But the idea is, just because I'm a limited, ordinary person doesn't mean that I don't have worth and value. Just because I have gifts and talents doesn't mean that you don't. Like I'm important and you're not. It means to have those sort of in balance. A third one is question is to define the ego. And by that, I want you to tell me what the ego is. And the ego is the center of our decision making, the center of our conscious personality. It's where we get our willpower from. And three primary functions. One is to orient us to time and space. Second one is to, which I call groundedness. Now some of you will put groundedness, and you'll say, oh cool, I got it. But you see, if you put groundedness, separation, and identity, you're not going to get 5 points for that. Because I'm going to have to, we're going to be looking at another paper who amplified the answer a little bit. And see, they're going to get more points than you. And I'm just telling you, that's how we grade. So you have that in your notes. I just went through that. A fourth one is from the Triandus article, and we were looking at it a while ago. And you on the video can go back and look at the other one. But in class, I went too fast for them. And they don't have a video to look at. But they did have my deal to look at. And this was the difference, 4 attributes for individualism and 4 for collectivism. And just to do this again. And do y'all kind of have this? Does anybody not have it in the class? Okay, you don't? Well, you can get it from somebody after class, right? Okay, that was smart of me, wasn't it? Set him up and bowl him over. And that's simply this whole concept of the cultures of individualism. And I think we saw Western and Northern European cultures tend to be more individualistic. European cultures. And then collectivism cultures tend to be East Asian, Southern Asian, African, South Central America, tend to be more group focused. Remember that? Do y'all have this? Okay, and they have it on them. Yeah. And then another question is, question number 5 is, knowing that the cultures are similar to the study of individuals, what are etic and emic aspects of culture? And that came right out of the textbooks, so that we sound real, kind of give us an academic flair. And remember, the etic cultures are aspects that are common to every culture. And what would be an example of that? Food, clothing, and shelter. The etic is common. I don't know how we do that. An acronym might be territorial or etic. The T might stand for something. And the emic has to do with individual cultures, what's common for individual cultures. That means how each culture might deal with housing. A tribal culture might, in the Amazon, might use mud huts with straw roofs. But the fact is, the etic is that everybody has to live in a house. Are you with me? Okay, and then I said on the question is, define each and compare to psychological terms. And we're going to look at more of this. And these are called archetypes. Archetypes are ancient imprints. They are things common to everyone. And then psychologically, we'll call them personas or masks or our unique ways of functioning relative to other people. And we'll look more at that. But I did want to make that connection. Because remember, when you study the one, you study the all. When you know one person, you know everyone. When you know your own fears, you'll understand that somebody else has those same fears. If you can't admit your fears, you won't understand when somebody of another culture, tribe, ethnicity gets freaked out. You're going, well, that's weird. I've never been freaked out. Well, you just hadn't lived long enough. See? So the idea, when you know yourself, you can know other cultures, other people, because you know yourself. Most of us don't know ourselves. That's why we freak out about other people. And another one is describe 3 ways the ego grows. And that was, what were those 3 ways? Through gratification. Yeah, gratification, stimulation, and approval of others. Yeah, and then again, you know, amplify that a little bit. So that's 6. You with me? And then the 7th one is, what are 6 common fears that every person of every race from every culture must deal? And I think I gave you 7. So aren't I being magnanimous?
Is fear of the unknown just fear of death?
Yeah. Yeah, fear of the unknown is the fear of dying. The fear of non-existence. The fear of non-being. And it is at the root of all fears, is the fear of non-being, the fear of dying. But see, the way I frame the question is, what are 6 common fears with which every person of every race from every culture must deal? And that's kind of neat to know about that, because you'll realize when you're having a problem with someone, usually there's some fear that's being dealt with. And then at number 8 comes from the book, but I gave you the answer to that. You can use stuff from the book. Chapter 1 is, according to owning your own shadow, what does it mean to become a whole person? And according to owning your own shadow. And by the second exam, chapters 1 and 2 of that little book, we're going to really get into projecting, and you're going to learn a lot. But just this whole concept of being a whole person, it's to know yourself, your gifts and talents. These are the things I gave you before. It's to accept and express the good side and the bad side appropriately of your personality, to recognize you have both. Whenever I point a finger at someone, there's 3 pointing back. See, everything I adore in others is in me. Everything I detest in others is in me. And the whole person understands that. The unconscious person doesn't understand that. And therefore, the 3rd one was to stop projecting my gifts and my weaknesses onto others. To stop talking about your weaknesses without saying I've got it too. And to stop talking about your talent without realizing I have it too. And I think that's why these TV shows about search for talent is so great. It's because we're all searching for our talent. And this is a... And the person, if your talent and calling is to work with kindergarten kids, I'm telling you, most of us, how many had a teacher in your life who was very significant in your life in terms of loving you, affirming you, awakening you? And look at that. See, they are the surrogate parents of the world, and to recognize that that may be my gift to do that. And if you do it, you don't need to sing in New York or get on a stage. If that's your talent and gift to do it, then you'll find great fulfillment and people will be blessed by it. And then the 4th one under being a whole person is to learn to retrieve the projections and take responsibility for your own life. And that means stop asking more of others than it's fair to them. Stuff like that. Okay. And now the 9th question, and I really split this, is what are 3 ways the ego deals with unacceptable beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors? 3 ways the ego deals with those things that are not approved by the caregivers and the culture. 3 things we do with them. There's maybe more, but one is what we do is we repress them. That means it came up and went down. We got it expressed and we were told not to express that. And I want to give you an example of each one of these. And what would be an example of repression would be Say you were raised in what would be? I think of many of them running through my head. Say you're raised in a family of aggressive business people, a family business, and you want to paint or draw. Well, there's not a lot of money in painting or drawing, at least on the short side. And so you come out drawing this stuff, and they said, stop doodling. That's drawing is silly. You need to go get a degree and learn how to make money and run this company. And so then that gift came up, that talent, and then it was repressed. And so you're left to doodling. Beautiful things. But you see what I'm saying? It got repressed because the family said it's not acceptable. What would be another example of something that came up and they got repressed? Oh, maybe one's sexual gender. And that's a very frightening thing for as that emerges. Usually our sexuality kind of gets, the studies show it sort of gets more centered in our 20s in terms of clarity about our sexual identity. What's another example?
If you love somebody who was of a different culture,
yeah.
It was like unacceptable.
Well, yeah, and you could be a third grader or a little kid, and your ego's still developing, and your best friend becomes someone. Maybe it's you're a Palestinian and you make friends with this Jewish kid and you want to bring them home, and then you're taught, no, you can't do that. And then all of a sudden you have to repress these things. For example, there could be, I'm trying to give an extreme example. Yeah, that would be a good example. And so you're confused about your affection, your friendship stuff. And the second would be suppression. That's stuff that just never comes up because you know it's not acceptable. And remember, the child's first two thoughts are, metaphorically, I guess, is who's in charge and what are the rules. You pretty much know what to keep suppressed. A lot of us don't express our anger when we get hurt and abused, and we'll suppress it. And it'll come up sooner or later, maybe in low self-esteem, relational problems. And then the third one is projection. And remember the long article I read? I did read that about the inner adversary. Did we talk about that in here? Yes, we did. I read that one day, didn't I? And that's classic, that we project those things out on others. What we don't like about our things aren't acceptable in ourselves, we don't accept in others, and vice versa. That's our talent. And that would be maybe the instinctual world that whites shun blacks because of their connection with emotion and body, because the whites are not in touch with that. These are glib stereotypes. But you see how that would be a projection, would be a third one. So the ninth question is, what are 3 ways the ego deals with unacceptable beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors, and give an example of each? Repression, suppression, and projection. Okay, any questions? Y'all kind of get it? Okay, so those of you in TV land, I'll see you on the test date that you can find on the internet. The site will be on Saturday, and you just come in and bring a pen, and I'll have the paper for you, and come with a closed book, open mind, and those of y'all, I'll see you next class. Okay? Thanks.
Can you give me number 8 again? I think it's to write that down.
Yeah.